Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode or edition of Media Boss Live. I am Dr. Barrett Matthews. I want to welcome you guys to Media Boss Live. If this is your first time and you're wondering what is Media Boss Live, well, what we're going to do is give you different ideas, different strategies, different thoughts, different views on how to do media for your business. And well, we do this live on live stream. That's why it's Media Boss Live, obviously. And I'm a little late today. I want to apologize for that. Had technical difficulties, as can happen when you're doing media, especially digital media. So, who am I? I'm Dr. Barrett Matthews. I have worked years and years in media. I started back, believe it or not, in the 1980s, and I am still in it now. But now as opposed to doing it before, as I worked for TV stations and for CBS, the network, I now do things for myself. So what I want to do now is share this information with you to help you as I do with my clients in doing business. So who are my clients? My clients are the high achieving leaders who are either in a position or have retired from a position but still feel they have a lot to offer and want to be able to share that with the public. So we do that through media. And what we want to do is make sure that they can get their voice out there and can be everywhere all at once. Now, what we're doing right here, we're doing 5 days of strategies, of media strategies that you can act on right now. 5 days of media strategies that you can act on right now. And that's the thing. I want you to learn that you can do some of these things yourself. If you want help, you can contact my firm at Media Boss Pro. We are at www.mediabosspro.com, mediabosspro.com. You can go ahead and set up a time with us, and we would love to work with you, love to talk to you, and see how we can help you to get your media out there, to get your voice heard, to get people out there noticing you. We would love to be able to do that for you. Now, with that being said, we've been on a little podcasting theme this week. I told you today I wasn't sure if I was going to stay with it, but I am staying with it. And today, what we're going to talk about is just getting your podcast to stand out, getting your podcast to stand out. Now, I want to mention to you, these are things that you can do on your own. We may be able to help you in some ways if you want to come to us. But the main thing is, I want to make sure I keep this short and concise. So this is not going to be a long Zoom today, a long live stream, a long LinkedIn live, however you want to see it. But I want to let you know I'm going to be talking about some ways that you can make your podcast stand out. Now, one way to make your podcast stand out, and I know this sounds kind of silly, but give it a catchy title. Give it a catchy title. Now, I know there are so many podcasts out there and so many names have been taken, but give it a catchy title. Find something that's unique, find something that's different, find something that stands out, and make it something that people go, "What? Wow, really?" Or something that gets attention. I remember meeting a gentleman, and I hope I got the name of his podcast right. A gentleman and his mother at a podcast conference, and their podcast is "Talking Sex with My Mom." I was like, "Whoa!" That made me think, "Wow, that's it caught my attention. Good, bad, or indifferent, it caught my attention." And that's what I'm telling you guys to do. So when you're thinking about your podcast, give it a catchy title, something that grabs people's attention. And one thing about that, sometimes a name may be taken. You may be able to offer one word difference to it to make it different. You may even just add your name to the end of it. And that could make all the difference in the world. So that's one thing you can do to make your podcast stand out. Now, you heard me mention yesterday that I am a strong advocate of video podcasting. So make your graphics and make your video colorful. Make it appealing to the eyes. Whatever you're doing with your podcast visually, make it appealing to the eyes. Even if you're doing audio, make your thumbnail, make it catchy, make it something that people say, "Wow, that grabbed my attention off of all the other thumbnails. This made my eyes focus on it." So that's another thing that you want to do. I know some of us are so ego driven. We think just having my picture up there is enough. Well, if you're someone whose picture is going to grab attention, yeah, fine. But otherwise, I strongly urge you to use colors and use designs. And there are people out there that do that professionally. So I suggest doing that to make your podcast stand out. Another thing is don't just go with, how do I put this? A cookie cutter format. Meaning, a lot of people sit there in front of a microphone and talk. A lot of people do interviews. What's going to make yours different? Are you asking different questions? Are you making people answer questions that are usually not asked on podcasts? Are you doing something different when you talk to people? Are you doing all types of histrionics when you're hosting by yourself? These things can make your podcast stand out. I was on a podcast recently and it was so cool because there was me and another guest. It was supposed to be a third guest, but she wasn't able to make it. But we all were playing Jeopardy before we got into talking about our business. He had us going through different categories and playing Jeopardy. It was so much fun. I realized how stupid I am. But anyway, but it was fun to do it though. It was just really fun to play that on his podcast. I've been on other podcasts that do something similar like that. So think of something unique to make your podcast stand out from others in your market so that you can be the one that people say, hey, I need to pay attention to them. Another thing, you can buy ads. Yeah. You can buy ads to get people to, well, buy leads, right? I'm sorry, not buy ads, buy leads rather, to get people to actually download your podcast. It happens. There are people who pay to download subscribers on YouTube. I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, but it works. It gets people noticed. Here's why. Here's why. So let's say you bought leads for your podcast to get downloads. You bought downloads, and then you run into someone who you may be interested in having as a sponsor, and that sponsor says, "Well, how many downloads do you have?" Well, they don't know that you bought them. They don't care that you bought them. They want to know that you have them. So if you have them and you can say we have 100,000 downloads, well, guess what? They're a little bit more interested in doing business with you because they think that maybe one of those people, or maybe two, or maybe three of those people may be interested in buying their products, so they may want to be a sponsor. That's another way of doing that, of making your podcast stand out. Now, another way that I find to be very effective is when you have guests, have your guests to share the fact that they're going to be on a podcast to their audience. Now, I think this is where a lot of people mess up because I hear people saying, well, my guests aren't doing it. They aren't doing it. Well, one, make it easy for them. Make it so easy that they can't say no. Because all of them will agree to do it. They're going to agree to share it. But make it so that they can just press one button or something and it's shared to their audience. For instance, if you get their information or whatever, their information to their social media, and then you can say, okay, here I made this for your social media. Then just click send, click send, click send. And that way, it's just put out there to your social media. So that way, they don't have to do much work. Give them the text in which to say. Give that to them so it makes it easy for them. The harder you make it for them, the more work involved, the less likely they are to share. And I know, they agreed to do it. I know. You shouldn't have to do that, but it's how it is. I mean, I don't like it, but a lot of people who say yes, I'm going to tell everybody in my market that I'm going to be on your podcast, and then they don't do it. You have to make it really easy for them so it's just not even a thought. So and it's a great way to get people to notice your podcast. Now, another way to do that is for those guests as well. And we're going to talk about guesting another time too. But for those guests, make it so it's worth their while. So what do I mean by that? I mean, make it so that you're giving them something other than just an interview so that if they have a product or service, hey, I'm going to market your product or service. And maybe you may even want to do that before the podcast to show them that, wow, I'm serious about that. And that little gesture right there of doing it before the podcast may make them think, you know what, I need to make sure I share this too. Because it would look crazy if they're sharing my stuff and I'm not sharing it and I'm on their podcast, right? So that's a create short clips of your podcast and put them on your social media. Make it relevant to what you're doing, and create engagement. Get the people to comment on the short, and then get them to watch the long form video or the long form audio, however you're doing it. But put clips on your social media. You can put clips, a link in your blog if you do one. But put that out there to make people take notice of your podcast. It's another great way of getting people out there. Use that social media to do it, because it draws people into something different than they're normally seeing on their social media sites. You don't usually scroll through LinkedIn and see a clip of a podcast, or scroll through Facebook and see a link for a podcast, or one that's playing. Go look at it. Go see what other people are doing, and that way you can get some ideas on how you can do it as well. But use your social media to get your message out there that you have a podcast out there, because it'll draw people in by doing that. I know that sounds obvious, but everybody doesn't do it. I'm just telling you. Also, if you have a website, promote it there. Promote it there. If you belong to any groups online, promote it there. Promote your podcast everywhere you can. Get people's eyes on it. Get people's eyes on it. And one other thing to get people to notice your podcast is to include them, include your audience. So, what do I mean by that? Ask them for comments, ask them for assistance, do a poll, get them to engage. When people feel that they have a part in it, they are more likely to reach out and say, you know what, I want to see this, I want to hear this, I want to pay attention to this, because they feel they have a part in it. I'll give you two examples. One is a radio show I listen to. It's a call-in sports radio show. There are certain people that call this show almost every day because they know they're going to put them on the air, and they feel that they are a part of the show, and they feel that their commentary is needed for their show. Now, another thing is for you, when you're dealing with that, another example, I've seen people put out a poll and ask people, what should I title my show, my podcast I'm about to put up? And they get people's comments. So now the people are interested to see what the title will be. Or you can ask them to give you questions that they have. If they give you questions and you give them a shout out on the episode, wow, what is that? When someone hears their own name, that resonates with them. That can help your podcast grow, because they're more likely to share it when they feel that they are a part of it. So those are just some of the ways that you can make your podcast stand out from others. There are plenty of other ones, but the key is focus on making it stand out. Put out good content. That's another good way. I should have mentioned that first. Put out good content, because good content will definitely drive people to it. And make sure you're doing good in whatever business you have. Make sure you're doing good business with people, so that they want to pay attention to the things that you say, so that they want to hang on your words. Because if you can do that, they'll not only listen to your podcast, and they'll not only watch your podcast, they will start sharing that podcast and telling other people to listen to the podcast. I've done it. I know people have done it for my podcast, so I pay. It works, but you got to put it out there. So that's going to wrap up today's Media Boss Live, and I hope I gave you something valuable to help you and your podcast to stand out. If you would like help in your podcast and helping it to stand out, don't forget, contact us at MediaBossPro.com. MediaBossPro.com. This is Media Boss Live. Well, reach out on MediaBossPro.com, and we would love to help you to get your podcast to stand out more. Also, make sure you're sharing this with everybody. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and let everyone else know that they should be watching Media Boss Live and tune into it. So as I always say before we go, you are someone special, because you are God's vessel. Everybody, have a great day. Talk to you soon.